welcome to Inner Circle, our weekly deeper dive on something educational to do with trading. Of course, we're going to start by having a look at what markets are doing now. Welcome to you all. I hope you have had a great Wednesday and delighted to see you here as always. Just going to pop up this important message to kick things off, of course. This is for educational purposes only, so please remember to do your own due diligence on anything you see here. Make sure that you follow trading plans. Make sure you manage risk on every trading action. It is vitally important that you do so and manage risk on every trade consistent with your own personal trading objectives and financial situation. Thank you very much for making this part of your Wednesday. So what we're going to do is, I'm not going to go through the headlines, etc. We're going to talk through them as we go. So we're going to start with looking at charts generally. And as we do that, we'll chat about the headlines, etc. We're going to start with the major indices. And you can see NASDAQ just pulled back a little bit yesterday after hitting new record highs. US earnings are coming in really well. There's around about 80% of beating expectations on EPS, around about 65 on revenue at this stage. This is helping. Alongside that, we did see the Trump tariff situation perhaps improve a little bit. We saw an agreement with Japan. Um, so I think it was 15%. Obviously, that August the 1st deadline is creeping up really quickly, and the Eurozone is yet to make any sort of deal. So that still looks as though it could be 30%, which would be massively hurtful to markets as a whole. Um, but I think the fact that they've got a Japan deal over the line is beneficial. Of course, Trump keeps on having a pelt at the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. The expectation is around about 50-50 that we'll get a drop in interest rates in September. But it'll be interesting to see after the July meeting what Trump has to say about things. He's been really quite rude considering it was him that actually put Jerome Powell into that position. So indices near record highs. If we look at what's happening outside of that, if we look at the FX markets, you can see the US dollar looked as though it was going to have a little bounce moving out this downwards trend line, but it's moved straight back into it again. So US dollar weakness continues. Of course, this was 3.5-year lows we hit here around about 96.30. So US dollar continues to look weak across the board. And of course, what that means is that gold is looking perky again. This blue line is really important because that is the record high that we hit in, good evening, Wayne. That's the record high we hit in mid-June and again in early May and again in mid-April. So we're pushing up against that quite hard. We did last night. If you look at today's 30-minute chart, really we're looking for a trend continuation. We did have a little dig at it this morning. But gold is doing well. Now, copper, new record highs on copper. Record close last night. Remember the August the 1st deadline on this, subsequent to which there's going to be a 50% tariff put on anything imported into the US. Seems to, we had this little pullback last week after the news broke, and we got a couple of days on top of that initial response candle. But this is quite spectacular. We said watch copper actually on, for those of you popped into the live market update on our lunchtime. We talked about copper on Monday, but it's record highs. You can't say any more than that really. We'll have a quick look at. We'll just have a quick look at. We'll just have a quick look at oil as well. I haven't had a look at oil today since really early doors, so let's just do that. Let's have a look at Euro, USO, USD. So the WTI crude contract, you can see it's pushing against the support around about 65.95. Could be about $1.50 downside in that should we breach that level. So it's just worth keeping an eye on, I guess. It is Wednesday though, so we will have the EIA all inventories out later on. We'll just check into data shortly. Right, let's just pop into the FX crosses then. Let's just start by Euro USD and that good news for Japan, that weakness in the USD. We can see that's been impacted over the last 2 or 3 days. We've got a key level here around about 146. What's for a breach of that? That could be a 100 pip move to the downside if it happens. You can see here, if we just pop it on the hourly chart, take it back a little bit, how important this level is. And then if we take it back again, you can see the potential down move to around about even 145 dead will be that's about an 80 pip move. So it's got some work to do to get down there, of course. We're still around 45 pips away from that. So it's not jumping up and down at the minute. And here's the Euro US on the hourly chart. You can see there we're eyeing yesterday's highs. We've been trading in a range today. Maybe some indication that there might be some Euro trade certainty may push that over 117.55. Again, if we look at context, a move over that should see us up to 118.12 and retest of those highs that we haven't seen for a very long time back here in 2020, in fact. Let's just check out how the Aussie's doing today. Quite strong against the yen. Actually, this is the monthly chart for context. If you look at the daily chart, you can see that early move to the upside. I don't like this as a chart, though. I think it could get caught in noise around where we are now. If it breaches 96, there's maybe a potential move of around about 40 pips to the downside. So I'm going to plant my flag in US yen. I wouldn't mind putting a pending order around this area here, about 145.85, and see if it travels downwards with a trail stop. Couple to keep an eye on overnight. Let's see, I've been doing lots of EA testing here. Okay, let's have a look at. Obviously, big tech have led the way. We are in the midst of earnings season, which, as I said before, is coming really strong. Nvidia up around about 0.6% in pre-market. We had that little dive. There we go. Had that little dip at the end of the session yesterday. But this is just a pullback, really. So we pull back to what we would expect. That would be the level we'd expect to pull back to 165 before we have another pop at 173. We didn't have a look at Bitcoin, did we? There's Bitcoin still trading in that range I talked about on Monday. If you're not doing much tomorrow lunchtime, feel free to pop into the live market update charts of the day session. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you click a like, that will be wonderful. Keeps the bosses happy, you know. But also you'll see a little bell on there as well. G'day, Roger, by the way. If you click the bell, and you'll see notifications all. It'll give you notifications of when things are about to cook. Usually gives you about a half an hour notice. So apart from Nvidia, we've had a few other interesting moves. Disney, I quite like Disney. 124 is the level to watch. They still have due to report, of course. And Netflix have reported already. It's probably worth checking Netflix out. Wasn't very well received, as you can see. It's in this downwards trend channel. But just watch Netflix. Watch for a bounce off this 1180 level. That could be interesting. Not surprisingly, US gold stock's doing well. You might as well trade the underlying future CFD. Watch for 1690 on Newmont. And Taiwan semiconductors. Semiconductors have had a good week, but just to pull back over the last couple of days. We've got some nice lines in the sand here, 246 on TSM. Tomorrow's ASX, I'm liking Zipco again. The fact that it's back at sort of this $3 plus some. It is quite a nice bounce off what it looks like a fairly established support around about 270. 305 is a level I get interested in, possibly a move up to 330. NIC I was talking about before. There's NIC. There's the breach. We talked about this breach of a 200 MA, and it's done that. This is actually next level on NIC. You can see there it's moved up to what was resistance here and support here. So keep an eye on NIC. I think there's plenty of upside in that. And in the retail spells, in the retail space, again, one to just keep on your radar is JB Hi-Fi. We've had so many attempts to breach 107 to the downside and failed to do so over the last 3 or 4 weeks that you've got to think that maybe this is just ready to put back up towards sort of 112-ish. So there's some stocks to watch. We'll check back in on the US yen and maybe the Nasdaq and gold a little later. I'll just put that there like so. Okay, so before we pop into ChatGPT, I thought we might just have a little look. See, very little data tonight. We've got existing home sales, which is sort of interesting. There we go. Come on. No, it's not liking that. Let me just do ChatGPT and see from there. Yeah, there we go. So transition that. Now let's see. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay, so you can see the Bank of Japan earlier today. Their CPI was a bit weak. That's great for them and does give them again additional license to raise rates, which I don't think are that far away. Tomorrow is a big day, probably the biggest day of the week. We've got PMI data. It's a flash PMI, so it's the first site we've got. If you look here, not many in expansion. I keep an eye particularly on German PPI. And manufacturing is always more important. The UK PPI is expected to be slightly higher, and then later on, we've got we should have the US number there. There it is. So we are expecting a tick up in the services, but a tick down in the manufacturing. The other major event tomorrow is the ECB rate decision, expected to pause at 2.15, which is one of the things that's really upsetting Donald Trump, the fact that their interest rate is lower than the US. Okay, so that's economic data done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the presentation. And a good place to start with this is really to ask the question: what's the benefit of using AI? What can you gain out of it? And really, the bottom line is that it helps you a lot uh, in terms of doing things quickly, particularly those things that need some. There we go. That's better. There we go. Particularly those things that are repetitive or need a lot of effort, then we can gain quite a lot from actually using AI platforms like ChatGPT, like Claude, like Grok, though Grok had a little bit of a drama, like DeepSeek, of course. We'll talk about the pros and cons of each later. And of course, one of the key things is to make sure that there seems to be different attributes associated with different platforms. But what it does is it can generate high quality content across various domains. Um, and of course, one of those domains, particularly of interest to us, is trading. Um, it can help simplify complex concepts into easy to understand language. So if you put one of the articles that are published regularly or on Go Markets, and it's possibly a little bit above your level. Well, what you can do is you can go into ChatGPT and say, hey, pull me out the main points of this article here. I'm going to show you a few examples of what we can do with it that may benefit for you as a trader. Can assist with brainstorming, problem solving, creative thinking. What does that mean? Well, it means really that we can look at things like um, if we wanted to write a trading plan, for example, and wanted a list of criteria, we can sort of put up an image and a little bit of narrative around that and say, can you create a set of entry criteria for this? We might have a look at doing that actually. Obviously provides multilingual support for translation, which isn't really that relevant to trading unless you're looking at an article written in another language. And of course, the key thing is productivity. What we can achieve with AI in a short space of time is quite staggering. And there's already massive evidence of that. Um, and I might give you a couple more. There are limitations, of course. Some of the responses may contain inaccuracies or outdated information. There's a limited awareness of real-time events or data. Now, there is no doubt that ChatGPT is probably ahead of the game. It searches the the web. Let me just show you an example of that. If I quickly just flick back to ChatGPT, right? I'm going to just show you. So, for example, if I said, "What are the two major things markets are going to be watching tomorrow?" It's very forgiving with spelling mistakes as well. Uh, then ChatGPT is usually quite good at that. So if we, as you search in the web now, and we can see there, um, it's also given us a latest on the SPY ETF, which is interesting. But there we go. Speeches from Fed officials, absolutely, and Coca-Cola earnings. Obviously, Coca, one of the key companies reporting. So those two are what it's identified. Whereas if we went on to some other platforms, we wouldn't get that good response. See how quick that was. How useful might that be if you start your day off by asking that question? Does that make sense? Does that sound exciting in terms of getting the information right there, right now? So that's just an example there. Just I thought I would show you. I'm going to give you as many practical examples as I can as we go through uh, the session today. Um, there are, of course, some, as I said, other limitations. It may struggle with maintaining context in a very long conversation, particularly if it's complex. Uh, what I've found is that if we are continually asking about the same thing, unless you're referencing previous things that has been stated, or let's say you asked it to do a document on, let's say you asked it to do a trading plan, and you then started to work based on entry criteria, and then you started to work on exits, it might struggle a little bit after a while when you're trying to clarify what it is you actually want. Um, unless, of course, you get it periodically to print out a document of the progress so far and then put that document back in. It seems to realign it a little bit. We can talk about that at a future stage as well. Uh, so you need to learn how to write good prompts. That is the crux of anything AI. It's got to be specific in terms of what you want with outcome, um, and often staged. We can often build on it as we go. And again, I'll possibly give you an example of that as we go forward. Um, it does require human oversight to verify critical and nuanced tasks. It does need you to drive it. And the best way to drive it is through a heap of pre-planning to make sure that the time you've got spent with it um, is gives you the best outcomes that you want, and also, of course, um, to subsequently get closer and closer to your desired outcome. You need to be consistently asking the right questions to get where you want to be. So I've referenced what are good question types. So there's a few here. I'm going to give you an example of two. Smart prompting. It's probably another discussion for another day. But role-based prompting is good. So you're my trading coach, for example. I want you to I want you to give me 8 things that I should work on with my psychology. Let's do that for something to look at. This is cool. Let's use that as an example. Okay. It does this. It does get a bit blippy occasionally. There we go. Let me just try that again. Okay. All right. Okay. Give me a second. I'll talk around. I'll talk around something. We'll have a look at that in a moment. Um, there's iteration and refinement prompts. So we put something out there and then we refine it and refine it. There is a reverse engineering prompt. So if you want to ask it questions about how to get to a particular place, then it will do that well for you. Um, it will also uh, it will also challenge my idea. I do what I call challenge my idea prompt. So you might say, I've heard that technical analysis is a waste of time. Um, please comment. Okay, so you put an opinion in, and then, of course, you ask it to do that. Why is it not doing this? Okay, so I'll keep on working on that in the background um, while I'm talking through the presentation. So let's break it down in terms of what can I do as a trader. Okay, so that's the question to ask is what are the things that it can do for you as a trader? So we're going to go through this list here. The first one of these is market analysis and trading fundamental. Now I'll give you a very, very basic uh, market analysis there. And you saw that in all its glory. There we go, we're going back. And trading fundamentals. So what type of market is it right now and what strategies may work in it? That might be worth asking. It gives you stuff on trading, psychology and performance improvement, risk management, strategy refinement. So I've got this strategy for a breakout. Is there any way you can see it? Is there any way that you can improve it? Hi, Sonia. Good to see you here anyway. Now, so let's just show you that, hopefully. Yes, there we go. I have to reopen it again. So I am interested in developing a breakout strategy for FX trading. So what you always do is start off with the outcome. So what are you trying to achieve here? Okay. So can you give me a list of criteria that I could use to develop a trading plan? Yeah, this sort of thing I think Chat GPT excels at. It's not the best at coding, which I'll talk about later. Let's get more specific for entry. Okay, let's see what it comes up with. So it's obviously used to working with me before. So what it said is that you need to define your core entry criteria. How good is this? How long would it take you to think of this and write it out? Okay. So it's essentially given you 17 points there that can form the basis of a trading plan. How good is that? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try this. I don't know whether it will work, but we'll try it anyway. I'll just go back to the presentation briefly. What I'm going to do is something really, really smart. I haven't done this before, but let's try it out as a concept because I think it'll add something to. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is paste all of that into there. There we go. So what I've done for you, because I'm a nice guy, is I've pasted in the criteria that I've just popped into ChatGPT that produced this output into the chat there. So you can copy that, paste it, whatever you like. And then, of course, as I said, we then can develop that and we can say, that's great. Can you give me 5 exits I may use to add 2 entries? Okay, so logic at the next support resistance. That's a good one. Yep, time-based exit. So we can close it at the end of the day or at the end of a trading session. An ATR-based trailing stop. Again, it's obviously worked with me before. And then a shift in momentum and a partial exit. So there you go. And then you can say, hey, if you'd also like to stop loss placement techniques. So yeah, let's do that. So what we can do here, discuss stop placement techniques. So what it's done is it's given us a list of just outside the buffer zone. That's good. Volatility based stop, ATR multiple, structural stop. So we can choose the one we want from that. And how long did that take me? How long did that take me to develop this breakout trading plan? So we've got a list of entry criteria, so you can align that. We've got our exits, our key exits, and you can use one or all of those. And then, of course, we've added our stop loss placement techniques, and then we can ask it again. Hey, can you give me our take profit placement techniques? You should see the chat prompt. Sorry. Why did it done that? It's interesting. It's killed itself again. Let's try again. Yeah, we need to find another way of doing this because this is just. Okay. I want to show you guys something that's just. Let's see if that does the job. How's that? To get AI to fix it. Yeah. So there you go. Okay. Should be up now. Okay, so you can see there it's given us a a range of stop loss techniques there to use, and just scroll up. So this is the bit you missed. So I'll do that, and then obviously we can get it to summarize that. And then if you want to, we can get it to write the whole plan. Cool, thank you. It's just not okay. Right, okay. Right, let's go back to our presentation. So we can do strategy refinement there, or if we had a strategy already, we could put it in and say, hey, look, how can we make this better? We can do data-driven decision making. So look at this data. What can we ascertain from this? So we could put in our trading performance and ask the question, how could this be improved upon? And then, of course, we can do the evaluation side of things is really, really key. I found is absolutely vital. There we go. So if we were to go back into this again, I'll just last trick with this is we can say, I just want to make sure you can see that. Yes, you can. Summarize this in a list of criteria and develop as a Word doc. Okay, I'm deliberately leaving summarize with just one M in. Okay, so it's doing that, doing that, doing that. We'll come back to that. Right, okay, let's go back to our presentation. There we go. So we'll come back and check in on that in a moment. Let's see it in action. We're doing that. So if we look at market analysis and trading fundamentals, it can help explain chart patterns, candlestick formations, or describe them in a way which puts them in criteria. Indicator signals can generate market reports, can develop in multi-time frame confluence strategies. Let me show you what I mean by that, because we developed something on that, which I think I showed on a previous webinar. So we should just view onto charts and transition. And what I'll do is we'll just do this. We can do scanners. All of these mark analyze. No. We can develop a market regime indicator. That's not the right one. So this is an indicator we developed, which gives us different market regimes at different times. That's on a daily. Let's make it here. So it will flick from one market regime to another. This was the original, which had 16 market regimes. And of course, you can use that to help you do that. The simpler version is this. So currently, of course, we are in a trend up low volatility, as you can see there. We've spent a little bit of time in range bound, as you can see there. And that's just a period separator. And this was trend up low volatility. So we move trend up low volatility, and then that is confirmation of range bound, and then we're back into trend up. So this was developed using AI. So that's how it all works. So back to the presentation. So we can summarize microeconomic events affecting markets. I'll give you a quick one of that. Track central bank policies. Talk about how geopolitical effects might impact and offer outlooks. So we could sort of say, give us your outlook for copper during 2025. Um, and then, of course, we can do correlations between asset classes, get definitions. So we could sort of go into Chat GPT. Please, God, work at last. So we could go in and we could say define liquidity zones for us, and that would do the trick very nicely. Um, I'll give you a prompt-based example. So we could, if you want to say, I want to know about the best reversal chart patterns, it's a bit generic. It's not going to give you a great result. Um, Whereas if we say you are a technical analysis expert, what it does is it puts itself into the role of that and gives you at a level. Um, so you saw me do this to a degree before. So develop a strategy based on chart pattern reversals. We chose to do a a breakout. If you did this chart pattern reversal, we could do what are the three most reliable patterns with definition and setup. Other ways you can use it, you can sort of say, look, you're my trading coach. It's the Chat GPT. I've got a problem with discipline. Give me 6 actions to take to start to address this. That would work well too. So that's what I mean by role-based prompting. Now I'm just going to talk briefly about machine learning. I'm not going to go into it in a massive amount of details, but it is you'll hear people talk about it a lot, and people get very excited about it at the moment. And the reason for that is quite simple, is because it's easily accessible to us all. And what machine learning is all about really is not just identifying patterns, um, which it can do. So how has this pattern performed before on my account using this strategy? How has it performed in terms of probability of moving X number of candles before it broke down? All that sort of stuff is good. But what it can do and why it's called machine learning is it can actually learn. So every time it gets a new setup of that particular pattern, for example, it can go back and say, right, okay, it's now not 75% likelihood that you're going to get a move in your desired direction. It's actually gone up because we've tightened our criteria. It's now 78. It's now 74. So every time there's a new, or it's now 62. So if you have a particular threshold that says, I need this strategy to develop a 75% win rate um, for me to be interested in trading it, as soon as it drops below that threshold, it'll stop trading. Does that now make sense? Why it's easy is markets generate massive amounts of data, and machine learning can wade through that at a great rate of knots, way, way, way beyond human capabilities. It would take years and years to get through some of the data that ML can get through. Um, Also, this is helped by, not surprisingly, because we're talking about speed in terms of what processor power can do these days, and its accessibility, which has made machine learning more feasible for traders, not just institutions, of course. We've got a lot of institutions now using high frequency trading, also sentiment analysis, which may feed back into some of the algorithmic trading that happens. And of course, those of you part of the EA group that we run have seen that. I've seen us move towards that as well. And as I said, it's so much easier now to um, to do this. And I don't think we've even scratched the surface. Now, I've done a previous talk on I've done a previous talk on the impact of AI as I see it uh, on trade on price action. So if you would like to, I don't mind sending you the link to that. More than happy to do that if you drop me a line. Um, let me just put my email address into the chat for you, just in case you haven't got it. Oops. I think it's spelled that right. Yep, all good. So there we go. Did that come in okay? I think it did, yeah. Right, okay. So how can ML be used? Just to reiterate, identify patterns. So not just the regular patterns, but also patterns that we may not see very easily. So it can, of course, it can do the standard mean reversion, momentum, breakout signals, all that sort of stuff. But look at some of the hidden relationships which may not be obvious on a standard chart. We can also grab data from outside and bring it inside. It can start to look at the relationships between Donald Trump's two social posts and market sentiment. You can optimize strategies so it can look at reducing false signals using probabilities. We've got a risk management, sorry, we've got an exit EA that we've developed, which means we can automate that. So we can enter a trade as we would normally. It's a hybrid approach to automated trading. So we enter as we would normally do, and then we attach an EA to manage our exits. So it means we don't have to close them out before we go to bed. And then we can adapt to market conditions. And of course, you saw the market regime indicator there. That can be used, of course, to subsequently not only alter your decision making from a discretionary point of view, but again can be programmed to if we're using any sort of EA. Now we can get some to some AIs to actually help write EAs, but it does need a level of skill in terms of prompt writing. It does need some understanding of how EAs are put together and then what to do with them next. It does require some learning about how to convert an idea into something that can be actually coded by AI, but it can do that. And you've seen an indicator already. I'll show you a couple of examples in a minute, but it can optimize things. It can automate exits, entries, stop losses, take profits, trail stops. It can, if you're tight enough with your manual strategy, one of the courses we run outside of this is AI to EA, which teaches people how to do that. Um, and of course, modify and write existing indicators to fit your approach. So let me just give you a couple of examples of this that we've actually done. Um, let's do a no me thing. So I'm going to give you charts, but we're not going to have me showing. It's because I'm not the major actor, it's the EA. So what I want to do is, let's go on a, I'm just going to change the account on this just because it's, okay. So for example, if we wanted to, if we wanted to, just trying to think of a really good example for you. Okay, there's something. So if we wanted to um, see how our EAs are performing, okay? So I'm just going to show you this very quickly. So we've got a few EAs on this account. So what I'm going to do is just paste these numbers in here. And we'll just do them from, let's say, from February up to, so this was developed using AI as well. And what it could do is if we just click on OK here, is, just check that it's opening these other windows as we go. It's not opening the other windows. Because they're different windows, of course. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, it's not going to let us do that. But what I'll do is I can send you through that report. What a nuisance. Okay. Let me just see if I can find a shortcut way through that because I really want to show you this because it's pretty cool. Okay. It might produce it in web. No, it's not going to. No, it's not showing it. That's just so annoying. Okay, if you're interested in that at all, then just let me know. Okay, this is the disadvantage of not using GoToWebinar. Right, okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to try and run a back test and hope that this works because it's on the actual chart area. So I'm going to show you this. That looks good. Right, okay, so we developed a fractal EA. So you'll see there, this is a fractal EA here. We're going to do it on the NASDAQ and we're going to do it for 2 years. Okay, from the 1st of July 2023 to 2025. And so what it is, it revolves around a breach of a fractal. For those of you who don't know what a fractal is, we can put a fractal on here and show you. Very quickly. Let's make them yellow so they're visible. And let's make them bigger. And yeah, during the norm. There we go. Okay, so if we bring this up, so a fractal essentially involves, you've got to have, if it's a fractal high, let me see there, you've got to have 2 above and 2 after below. It's a fractal low, you've got to have 2 above before that candle and 2 above afterwards. So essentially it's a 5-bar pattern. Okay, so what we did was we developed a strategy about it breaching a previous high. So providing it was over a specific MA. So there's a previous fractal high. So what we want is a break of that level there, which would be that candle there. So we'll be in on that and trade that to the upside. Hope that sort of makes sense in terms of strategy. So we developed an EA around that and then put some exits in it. And then, of course, what we do is we test it. So if we do we'll just do it on OHLC. So it's just testing on a 1-minute chart. And if we click on this button, start, what it's doing is it's testing all of these inputs on this EA generated automated model. So you should be able to see it going up. Oh no, you can't see it going up. Oh yes, you should be able to. There we go. So you'll see there, that's a really quite a nice equity curve in terms of it's gone up, it's gone up, it's gone up, it's gone up. What do you think of that, guys? Does that look impressive? So in terms of our investment in this, if we just look, I'll just show you to prove it. So we're only doing 0.3 of a lot. So we're not even doing one. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. So 0.3 of a lot, and it's created, if we look at the graph, equity is now 13,255. So it's done 3,255 profit in 2 years on 0.3 of a contract, which is, just to give you a, if we find the NASDAQ, tell you how much of an investment that would be. Specification. So if we look down here, the Nasdaq is $70 a full lot. Okay, we've traded 0.3. So that's what that's about 23, $22. Okay, just reinvesting it, reinvesting it. And here's the results. So you should see this. I'll just make sure that you are seeing the right thing. Yes, you are. And so we've got 3,255, and our maximum risk at any time, it dropped to 160. Okay, it's got a 62% win rate. That's pretty impressive, hey? So if we wanted to do one lot, so our $70 we put in again and again, of course, that's going to look a lot better than that. So let's change this to one contract. So $70, and we'll start back test running. And it will give us exactly the same equity curve. All we've done is we've scaled it up from 0.3, which is where we'd start 0.2 or 0.3 of a contract. And then once we got guarantees that it was actually performing well, then we could scale it up. And this was all AI generated. That's not fair to say. All AI coded. The generation was from having a solid strategy underneath, doing some preparatory work, and then asking the right prompts. So now in 2 years, 10,850 profit. We had to give back 534. When it talks about drawdown, it means at some stage during this process, it just pulled back a little bit, which I'm guessing was from here to here. Or maybe even here to here. But obviously $500 when you've made 10 grand is a lot better. At this stage, the biggest loss was around about $150. Okay, here. But as of course, as you make more money, then a percentage drop is bigger in dollar terms. So how's that? And as I said, AI developed, AI coded. Got to get it right. But then, of course, there's things outside of that. But I just wanted to show you that because that's the ultimate. ChatGPT can't do that. But in terms of giving you advice, self-writing quizzes, um, giving you a checklist, writing help on writing you a trading plan, evaluating your trading performance, all that sort of stuff ChatGPT can do and can do it well. Providing, of course, you've got all the right things in place. So I think that's probably covered it for today. And so really, it's up to you. You can choose to learn more. Um, if you want to know where to get that, you can pop me a little email. We can run extra sessions on this. If any of this is interesting, I will be running them and go to webinar because when you're flicking between a lot of different screens, then it's certainly far better. So make sure you follow through. If this appeals, go and have a look at ChatGPT. If you have got access to it already, guesses your kids probably have a play. Ask it some questions. Develop a trading plan. Give yourself write yourself a checklist on 8 things you could be doing, or 8 things that should be part of your daily agenda before you have a look at the markets. Do a little test tomorrow morning. What are the 3 things I should be looking at today? All of those things can be really useful. So review the session and then go and have a look. Go and have a play with it because it's the best way to learn, and you will be amazed, seriously amazed. And that is it, really. I don't know why it flicked on. So that's the key action: is go and have a look and try it out. After that, you can drop me an email. I will to mike@smith@gomarkets.com, and I'll gladly help in any way that I can. So I hope that's been useful. I hope it's been interesting. Irrespective of whether you think it's right for you or not, it gives you that information to go and check things out. Now, I did promise that we will go back and just have a quick look at charts. So I'm going to just close this down, this back test down. We'll come back and go and have a look. How's our Nasdaq traveling? Yeah, it's still range bound. I think we're going to need markets to open there. If we look at gold, you can see that's trading within a fairly tight range. So nothing there. I just think the markets may be in pause um, for right now. And you can see the US yen is looking very interesting. We're actually potentially breaching a fractal low or moving towards that. So that chart of the day still occurs, still is valid. As I said, watch for that move through 146. I hope that's been good. I hope it's given you something to. Why is it? What's that chart down? And I wish you. I hope the rest of your evening is good. Um, and we shall see you again sometime soon.